The Tesla protests have been escalating. We had a major nationwide protest, not the biggest, just a couple days ago. In 5 days, the large Tesla takedown is set to take place. And my friends, as a Tesla owner, I myself have experienced some of the chaos and shenanigans that comes along with driving around in a Cybertruck. To be honest, I am not going to stop driving my Teslas nor my Cybertruck. And it's actually quite hilarious, the reactions that we received, me and my friends, as we drove the Cybertruck in West Virginia and D.C. People were not happy. One lady almost hit us. And I try to say this lightly because I don't want to assume some lady tried to run me off the road because she's insane, because maybe sometimes people are just bad drivers. But in the latest news, a man actually drove into Tesla protesters. Now, hold on. He didn't ram them. Nobody went flying. Nobody got injured. But this is big news because we fear where this escalates to. The Tesla takedown protests are getting crazier. Protesters are engaged in terror and vandalism and have been now for some few weeks. Prominent liberal personalities have been advocating for this. And now we get the first story of a direct confrontation. This isn't the first time somebody has driven into protesters, and the guy likely went very slow just to get through them. I doubt this is a story of a guy who he certainly didn't ram anybody. But last week, a woman was driving in Washington State, I believe it was, when a car speeds past her, slams its brakes on. A guy jumps out with a balaclava and wearing some kind of weird camo outfit, starts screaming at her face. I am surprised that man walked away unscathed. And I'm surprised the woman actually rolled down her window to talk to a guy who would do something like that. And the reason why this story is particularly worrying is the dramatic escalation that we fear will happen. How many people have said it? Someone is going to get shot because they are already shooting up Tesla vehicles. Now, this our report, my friend, is not just about Tesla, just a shocking element. Pam Bondi issued a warning to Rep. Jasmine Crockett, who said for her birthday she wanted Elon taken down. And the argument is this language a little bit heavy considering the acts of terror that we are seeing? So, my friends, strap in. We're going to talk about all of this and the escalation of conflict in this country and the judge's actions against Donald Trump, Trump's retaliation, how he's going after these criminal elements. And dare I say it, my friends, but the fear of violence that is escalating as swattings keep happening. And, well, the left is calling for advancing, encouraging, and engaging in acts of terrorism. So I want to give a shout out to Steven Crowder over at Mug Club and all of his Mug Club members. Thanks for the raid. This is the Rumble Morning Lineup Live. And, of course, for this next hour, I am Tim Pool, your host. We'll be going through the latest news pertaining to the escalation of violence. And then afterwards, we'll be sending you over to Jeremy Hambley at the Quartering for the next 1 p.m. show. But in the meantime, thanks for watching on Rumble.com. Become a Rumble Premium user to watch all of our bonus content. We have the Green Room podcast at rumble.com/TimcastIRL, as well as some feature-length documentaries and our uncensored call-in show at the back end of every Timcast IRL episode. Also, don't forget, my friends, you can pick up some delicious Cast Brew coffee over at castbrew.com. We got Misty Mountains Ground. We've got everyone's favorite Appalachian Nights. Buy our coffee if you support the work that we do. And join our Discord server at timcast.com. Click Join Us. Get in the Discord server and be an active participant, not just a passive observer. When you're a member of our Discord, there are fitness chat rooms. People are making comic books. They're building new devices. They're hosting their own shows. And you can join a community of over 20,000 individuals where you can discuss these issues, get involved, and even call into Timcast IRL Monday through Thursday and talk to us and our guests. But until then, my friends, smash the like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Get in your Rumble rants now. And we'll take questions for you. And, of course, I'm your pal in the chat asking, is it civil war today? Perhaps that's one way to describe it. Perhaps it's not. But let's jump into the news, and I'll show you where we're currently at. This is a story that we saw making the rounds this morning. South Florida man drives SUV into Tesla protesters, cops say. Deputies say he later told dealership workers he stands with the company. A 44-year-old West Palm Beach man is facing a felony charge after sheriff's deputies said he tried to purposefully purposely drive his SUV into a group protesting at a Tesla dealership over the weekend. The planned protest was one of a slew across the U.S. at businesses associated with Tesla, the company led by Musk, in response to the billionaire's work with the Trump administration in cutting federal funding on the workforce. Attacks on property carrying the logo of Elon Musk's electric car company are cropping up across the U.S. and overseas. Several more violent incidents include Cybertrucks being set on fire in Seattle, shots fired at a Tesla dealership in Oregon, and let's not forget, my friends, additionally in Las Vegas. Now, let me tell y'all a story about me. Oh, I know. People are always saying, Tim, don't make the story about you, but let me tell you. So we took a trip to D.C. I was recently doing a show with the Trigonometry fellas. So we drove into D.C. On our way there, you know, maybe it's a little hyperbolic to say, but let me just describe it in the most neutral way that I can. A woman in a blue car got dangerously close to our Cybertruck on the highway, essentially on the line. So the Cybertruck is auto driving on the highway. You click the button, it's driving itself. This is my Cybertruck. And a lady was staring in the window at us, not paying attention to the road in front of her, within a few inches of the car. And I'm thinking, she might hit us. And I'm like, is this just some crazy lady who hates Tesla? Honestly, got no idea. So y'all who are watching, you can make your assumptions and let me know what you think. Considering what's been going on, we kind of assumed, confirmation bias. She was staring into the vehicle, getting dangerously close. And I figured, let's just not move the vehicle. Like, we're not going to swerve to the left. We're not going to panic. If she hits us, she hits us. We got a stainless steel Cybertruck with curb weight. I'm not super worried about it. She eventually backed off and left. Later, we had a lady roll down her window screaming at us. This time I'm driving, and I don't really notice, but my homie in the passenger seat is like, yo, this lady's screaming at the top of her lungs, like in a car with her kid, like a youngish looking woman. And I'm like, whatever. And then the only other thing I really saw was someone spit at us. We were in D.C., and a lady pointed, and the guy she was with turns and then spits at us. That was funny. And then another guy looked at me as he was driving. He was at a stoplight, and he looks at me, and he just gives me a thumbs down. Yo, I just got to tell you, we were loving it. Yo, I was like, bro, is there anything more punk rock than driving around in a Cybertruck right now, just flipping off all these lunatics? I'm enjoying myself. I don't know about the rest of you guys. NBC News reports, man charged with assault at Tesla dealership after driving car at protest. So this is the charge that he ultimately got. And as we already saw from the other story, they're basically saying he intentionally did it. They say that they were protesting outside of Florida Tesla dealership and narrowly avoiding them, authorities say. The protesters had to move out of the way in order to avoid being struck by the vehicle. Yeah, this is getting crazy. And what's funny is I saw this story because I see these liberals posting about it. And they're asking, isn't this terrorism? Isn't this terror that he would try to hit these people? And I'm like, listen, can we talk about what commensurate means? If the far left are throwing firebombs and shooting at vehicles, and I mean it, we're talking, intentionally trying to drive into protesters is not commensurate force. If a guy, however, is on the road and they surround and block him, and the person says, I'm not going to wait to find out if they try to kill me, that's commensurate force. That is, well, actually, I mean, not even. I got to be honest. We have seen so much of this. There was a story in the Summer of Love riots where a car was on the highway and they surrounded it and it sped through and hit a few people. And they try to put these people in prison. We know these individuals in Provo, Utah, during the Summer of Love riots, 5 years ago now, isn't that crazy? There was a white car driving on the road about to turn right. There were no protesters. They were protesting in the street, but the car wasn't rushing towards them. The car slows down to make a right. Somebody runs up, draws a gun, and shoots the driver in the arm. Yo, I kid you not, shot the driver. You then have the story out of Austin, Texas. I think it was Austin, where the far left protesters come up and one of the guys got a rifle at low ready. The driver, I think his name is Daniel Perry, pulled his gun and shot the guy. And he went he went to jail for it. He got a pardon from the governor, I believe. And they tried arguing he did it on purpose. How can we live in this world? I'm not even trying to be cute, my friends. You tell me, because I am sick and tired of people mocking the idea that we are engaged in conflict, civil strife. Tell me how you live. Tell me how you navigate this and what you think is currently going on. Because, sometimes I'm looking at all these stories and I'm like, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm just plumb nuts. Nothing's really going on. And then I personally get in my car and a lady nearly hits us. And I think to myself once again, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe that lady was just a bad driver. It has nothing to do with being in a Tesla. And then people spat at us, screamed at us, and I mostly just ignored it. Maybe I'm just crazy. Or maybe I'm not. Caught on video, driver cuts off and harasses Tesla owner in Linwood, Washington. You guys seen this video?
Cut off and berated, and it was all captured on camera. And the woman that was driving said the man that did all this was angry because she was driving a Tesla. His Fox 13's Alejandro Guzman explains that woman was just trying to get to a doctor's appointment. She has the latest from South Lake Union outside of the Tesla showroom.
This encounter has left this mother pretty shaken up. She's just grateful that things didn't escalate physically. At the same time, though, she's afraid to drive her car anywhere, as we're seeing a growing number of incidents targeting Tesla owners, not just here locally, but nationwide.
I was thankfully by myself.
Lee was on the way to a doctor's appointment in Linwood Wednesday morning when she says all of a sudden a driver behind her just laid on the horn as they came up to a red light. Things spiraled out of control when a white SUV followed her and cut her off, stopping in the middle of the road.
Gets out and walks straight up to my window.
Look at that.
So I cracked my window and I said, what is the problem? And he goes, you need to sell your car. This is a Nazi car. You're driving it. You need to sell your car.
Lee says she's been driving a Tesla for the last 2 years. She says the man wearing a camouflage jacket and a ski mask attacked her for it.
It's really sad, that this is what's happening to people who honestly, it doesn't affect how I believe or what I believe. It's just the car I drive. Being in Seattle, climate's important, our footprint's important. This seemed like the right move for our very busy family.
This, however, isn't the first incident or act of vandalism reported. We've seen attack after attack after attack.
I just want to stress that right there. If we go back,
set ablaze at the Las Vegas Service Center.
Friends important.
Just go back real quick to show this once again.
Right move for our very busy family.
This, however, isn't the first incident or act of vandalism reported. We've seen attack.
Highlighting, I think what's important to highlight
attack
here.
After attack.
I'll pause this. A lot of attacks we don't know about. And I mean, at a certain point, I'm kind of just like, they're targeting these cars. Is it silly? A lot of the vandalism we've seen has been high-profile, large-scale attacks. What we have not seen is the small-scale attacks. So there's videos that are circulating of people kicking Teslas, slamming their bags, and then breaking their windows. This is happening to a much more pronounced degree than we actually realize when we report these higher-profile stories. So the Tesla takedown protests, they're seeking to destroy the value of Tesla. They say a peaceful protest movement. Of course they do. Sell your Teslas, dump your stock, stop Musk now, join us. And the game that they're playing, they're saying, we're just boycotting Tesla. They post memes where they're like, look at all the conservatives who boycotted all these products. Now they're crying, we're boycotting. Bro, I don't care if you boycott Tesla. I don't care if you sell your stock. I really don't. If you sell your stock and you drive the price down, despite the fact that Tesla is doing all right, then we can buy it up, buy the dip at a premium and make money off it. That's fine. That's the market. But if you're vandalizing, destroying, and killing people, dude, they've killed people before. For, the Summer of Love, we saw 30 plus. We saw Aaron Danielson, who gets brought up quite a bit. And I'm hoping this doesn't get to that point. But now we got a guy who apparently tried to hit some of these protesters. They said purposely driving into them. Now, the question is, did he stop and then pass through them, or did he swerve and speed up? Action Network has the event, March 29th, the global day of action to stop Musk. Why are they mad at Elon Musk? Why, when I drove my Cybertruck, did people scream at me? Seriously. Why? Like, do these people even stop to consider what they're doing? This lady Lee, who's driving a Tesla, and the guy stops in front of her. First of all, you do that in some other states and you die instantly. I hope it doesn't happen. Please, people, remain calm. But that terrifies me. If you're in West Virginia, a constitutional carry state where basically everybody's strapped, and you pull in front of somebody, slam your brakes on, and get out in a balaclava the way that guy did, yo, people are probably going to ram you. I mean, I'll tell you, you don't even need me to explain it. In West Virginia, though, guy probably gets out of the car with his gun and says, back the F up, get in your car and leave now. So we hope it does not get to that point. At least I hope it doesn't. I don't see why they're going to stop. This is the beginning of Trump's second term. It's been 2 months. It's not even summer yet. Spring just started, and this stuff is already lighting up. It's scary. National Desk reports that the FBI is warning of escalating violence against Tesla properties amid protests. This from a report from this morning. The FBI put out this statement on the 22nd. PSA, FBI warns of nationwide incidents, arson, gunfire, and vandalism targeting Tesla EVs, dealerships, and charging stations in 9+ states, linked to political grievances. The FBI urges vigilance and awareness around Tesla locations. But it's not just that. You know what these people want? There's a reason they put bullets in the Tesla vehicles of private owners, no less. They want you to be scared to drive. But again, the point I was going to make a second ago. Do they not consider the economics of what they're talking about? This lady Lee, when someone drives in front of you like that and screams in your face, you'd think a working class person can overnight just flip their vehicle? They're just terrorizing working class people. It ain't going to work out for them. People who bought Teslas, you get yourself like a Model 3 or whatever for 30 grand, and you're thinking, I got a car, electric is cheaper than gasoline. Not the cars themselves, perhaps, but the electricity is cheaper. I'm doing right by the environment. I bought it 2 years ago. I have payments to make. Yo, take a look at this. If nobody wants to buy, I'll tell you what these people are doing. Listen, understand. Let's say you financed a $30,000 Tesla 2 years ago because they told you, the climate activists on the left, that you had to do it for the environment. So you said, let's do it. Let's say you put $10,000 down, 10 grand. You saved up, you put 10 grand, maybe five grand. $30,000 car financing, fees and all that. You got 30, let's just say 26,000 is left in payments on that vehicle, plus interest. You are now paying it off. What are you going to be paying? $300, $400 a month or something like that to your bill plus insurance. It's the only car you have. You are not wealthy by any means. These people threatened to kill you. They literally did. They're shooting these vehicles with guns, not with slingshots. So now you, living in this area, have to decide. Do you want to go out and drive the only car you have? What can you do? Do you want to sell it? Good luck. The same pressure you're feeling where you fear to drive the Tesla and think, maybe I should sell it and buy something else. So you go to the dealership and say, can I trade this in? And they say, sure, trade it in. We'll give you $10K for it. And you go, I can't do that. I'll be underwater $16,000. And they say, we're having trouble moving Teslas because terrorists are shooting at them. So what we've seen now, notoriously, many people are bragging on the left about selling their Teslas for a huge loss. You think a regular working family can do that? They can't. The people who are selling their Teslas and eating the loss probably didn't finance or don't care. And that's terrifying. Because now regular working people are faced with terrorism. They're not going after Elon Musk. They're not going after his company. They're going after working class individuals who bought electric vehicles because the left told them it was the right thing to do. In most cases, they're terrorizing their own faction. So where does it go? Pam Bondi warns Democrat Jasmine Crockett, tread very carefully after saying Elon Musk should be taken down. What a crazy thing to say. We have the clip, ladies and gentlemen.
Now you have this Congresswoman Crockett who is calling for attacks on Elon Musk on her birthday. Let's take him out on my birthday, she says. And yet she turns and says, oh, I'm not calling for violence. Well, she is an elected public official. And so she needs to tread very carefully because nothing will happen to Elon Musk. And we're going to fight to protect all of the Tesla owners throughout this country, and it's this basic safety. Once again, domestic terrorism is going to come to a stop in our country.
So I wonder, I really do. Sometimes I see stories like this. I see what's going on. And I just think to myself, is the left intentionally destroying the Democrats on purpose? Because, my friends, everything they're doing just helps Donald Trump. You know, there's that conspiracy theory. We were talking with General Flynn on the culture war back in November during the week of the election. And I was explaining to him this conspiracy theory that Donald Trump is the deep state. I know. Many of you are shaking your head saying, what? No. I don't think it's true, of course. But the theory was Donald Trump was how you unified anti-establishment forces with populist forces and regained control of the government. You make villains, you then become the hero. So take a look at what the far left is doing. Are they in any way going to help Democrats reclaim power? Quite the opposite. They're terrorizing regular people. But you know what? None of it really matters. The conspiracy theories that Trump is actively part of an establishment plot to make villains and heroes, and then Trump, of course, funds Israel, and we're still at war in Ukraine and all that stuff. No, I think the reality is the Democrats have just gone nuts slowly over a long period of time. And now we're faced with very serious conflict because insane people are doing insane things. But it ain't all bad news. Take a look at this. An anonymous donor has sent 10 Cybertrucks to the Las Vegas Police Department. Libs of TikTok says these look so badass. Here we go. Let's. I don't know how long this video is, but.
So Las Vegas Police Department just added 10 Cybertrucks to their fleet, but I think the story is actually much bigger. When the community found out about this, people were outraged because Cybertrucks are ridiculously expensive and they're not particularly good vehicles, especially for police. When the sheriff announced the Cybertrucks, he was quick to point out that they didn't buy them, but they were donated anonymously. Now, aside from the very obvious parallels that having militarized police forces and vehicles that look like Cybertrucks is very bad for the community, a lot of people thought that it was Elon Musk who donated the Cybertrucks to the police. That it wasn't. Billionaires are funding the police. And before you say, oh, it's just a donation, if the donation is used for police operations like the flock cameras or the Cybertrucks, that money is used for policing in the community. It's not but certainly with flock and with now the Cybertruck, which is a vehicle capable of autonomous driving, they're getting data. But more than the data is the control they get and the influence they have on the policing system.
Cry more, I suppose. Let's talk philosophy, my friends, before we get into the bigger story here. When we get into how Democrats are responding to Trump and Elon, let's get philosophical, and I'll ask you guys questions, and I'd like to hear what y'all have to say. So, do we want to see police driving around neighborhoods with their lights flashing, stopping people and frisking them? You know what's funny? You can get into the naive classical liberal world, which I think I have read enough to have evolved beyond, I'd call it. I'd probably find myself, as some would describe, post-liberal, though I don't know if I don't like using terms like this because they describe a subset of ideas that are very specific. For instance, I believe in God, but I'm not a Christian, so they say, you must be a deist. Okay, deists also believe God does not interact with the world, which I do not agree with. So no, I don't like that term. I'll put it this way. Would you want religious morality police? Probably going to say no, right? Most people would. The reality is it doesn't matter. None of this matters. The idea of government law, none of it matters. And I really do think so. Wade Stotts, I like to give him a shout out because he has one of the best videos pertaining to the Constitution I've seen ever. It's an older video, but he put it up on X a while ago. I think he might be on YouTube. Shout out to Wade Stotts, where he described that a constitution is a reference to what constitutes the people. Most places don't have written constitutions. They have a body politic that adheres to certain socially accepted norms. The moment you start writing these things down is when you begin to lose them. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the U.S. written constitution is extremely important. It does not just govern the Bill of Rights. Those are distinct. When people ask me, Tim, he's violating the Constitution, aren't you mad? I say, are you referring to the actual Articles 1, 2, and 3 of the Constitution that lay out the powers of government, the structure of government, and how we choose our leaders? Because no, he's not. Are you talking about the Bill of Rights and you want to make an interpretation on what these things actually mean? What is cruel and unusual? What is free speech? Friends, let me tell you, the Bill of Rights have never been upheld. Never, not once. I know a lot of people are going to be like, how could you say that, Tim? Because we used to have blasphemy and obscenity laws. You want to talk about freedom of religion and freedom of speech? In the early days of this country, you would be ostracized, shunned, and that's not government, but you could actually be arrested for obscenity. And I'm not talking about getting naked. I'm talking about swearing. Even in the 1970s, George Carlin got arrested for swearing. I kid you not. Free speech in the public sphere never was protected. How about this? The FCC would fine broadcasters if they used untoward language. Or was it like when Janet Jackson had the malfunction and Justin Timberlake ripped off her bra or whatever it was, like her boob popped out, and they had to pay a fine to the FCC. Now, don't get me wrong. That's not the same thing as free speech. What I'm saying is the FCC has levied fines against broadcasters for things they say you cannot broadcast. Famously, if you go way back, sheriffs in various towns would take the guns of people when they were entering those towns. They'd say, we don't want strangers bringing weapons in, so turn your weapons over. Hey, I got a right to keep and bear arms. It wasn't until 2008 in the DC versus Heller ruling that it was nationwide determined you have a right to keep and bear arms outside of your home. Kid you not, my friends, we're going back 2008. That's our lifetime. Well, I don't know. If you're watching this and you're 17 or whatever, and you were just born then, perhaps you're shocked now. But my point is simply this. We are dealing now with what I refer to consistently, over the top, ad nauseum, forgive me, I know, wartime conditions. What this means is not that we have people in the streets shooting each other. If you are so unread that that's what you think wartime means, I implore you, read about structures of warfare. Cold War, Civil War, administrative war, whatever you want to call it. Donald Trump nearly died. Someone tried to kill him and we don't know why. Seems very strange that this guy was able to get where he was able to get without police, Secret Service, or anyone stopping him. Call it what you want. A second man made an attempt on the president, and they were fortunately able to shoo him off before he got a shot on Trump. They have attempted to put him in prison, seize his buildings, shut his businesses down. They've targeted his children. They've arrested his lawyers. When a person shows up with weapons and instructs a lawyer who is constitutionally protected, my friends, you've got wartime conditions. Jamie Raskin said if Trump won, we'd have Civil War conditions. Call it whatever you want. I don't care. But what this means is we are now dealing with conflict to the extreme degree. And I'm not saying physical kinetic warfare. I'm saying extreme conflict. That is, they tried to arrest the president. They, as in literally the Democratic Party and deep state elements, they literally arrested him several times. They wanted him in jail. And some people on more than one occasion attempted to take his life. Do you think these things just disappeared and it's all over? This means Trump must act now as if he is in wartime conditions. So when a judge says you cannot, Trump simply respond, yes, I can. Now, I had this conversation with the trigonometry folks, which I don't know when the episode will be going up, but I recommend the longer 2-hour conversation. So let this just be more of a promo to it with some spoilers. Because they argued to me we're not in a wartime condition and Trump shouldn't do this. They argued to me that Trump should not have any extra powers or anything under the Constitution because of the conditions we face. My opinion is irrelevant. What I ended up bringing up as we get into the escalation of conflict, legal conflict, etc., it doesn't matter what you think. So I go back. Where does this conversation start? Cybertrucks driving around with police lights. Fears of a police state. None of it matters. Let me explain. You, at home, if far left extremists are firebombing vehicles in your neighborhood, which would you rather have? They run rampant and you never know when your car will be shot, when you will be shot? Or would you rather have Cybertrucks driving around with their lights flashing and no firebombs? The question is obvious. The argument that is often presented is that those who would trade security for freedom I'm sorry, trade freedom for security deserve neither and would lose both. The actual quote is, those who would trade temporary security, I'm sorry, I keep screwing up. Those who would trade their freedom for temporary security deserve neither and will lose both. And thus, I largely think, for me personally, I'd much prefer to be responsible for my own safety and security. I would much prefer to be armed myself. Not everybody can afford that. Then we run to the problem of, what if you are at home and a far leftist comes to your house and threatens you, and in the process of conflict, that protester, that extremist, that terrorist, whatever you want to call them, dies? You will go to prison. So again, the reason why I say it doesn't matter is that in conflicts, all that matters is which moral faction wins. So the example that I gave the trigonometry bros is simply this. When you look at every poll on who is the most popular president, it's Abraham Lincoln. And I've said it ad nauseum, I know, but bear with me for those that don't know the context. He arrested the Maryland legislature that was sympathetic to the Confederates. About a third of the legislature were arrested. They didn't even commit crimes. He suspended habeas corpus in a corridor stretching from Pennsylvania to Washington, D.C. Because Maryland was sympathetic to the Confederates as a slave state. They were concerned that access to D.C. could be cut off. So he said, we can arrest anyone for any reason or no reason at all. And they did. Is Abraham Lincoln a hero or a dictator? If you ask the average American, they say he's a hero. The man who thought he was a tyrant shot and killed him. Sic semper tyrannis. That was John Wilkes Booth. And he's considered a villain. So when I look to Donald Trump and I can see the degree of violence and the attacks that are currently happening, I can see the lawfare. I am not so naive to think this ends with Trump simply saying, I am going to be a nice guy and avoid taking action against those who are seeking to destroy me, my family, and the world that I believe in. Nor will his constituents, his voters, his supporters sit back and let it be crushed and let it die. But do you think the left would allow their worldview to be destroyed all the same? Do you think the deep state would allow Hillary Clinton to be criminally charged? So again, does it really matter what we think when we are faced with oblivion, is one way to put it. I guess what I'm saying is the argument that Constantine made to me was every dictator ever has used the excuse, I need emergency powers because of an emergency, right? And my response is every leader ever, and Abraham Lincoln being the best example. World War II, we had the U.S. Office of Censorship. But what about the First Amendment? Aren't we upset the Constitution was violated during World War II when they were putting out those messages, loose lips sink ships, and then an office dedicated to telling what members of the press could or could not say? The Allies were the good guys, objectively. But does that mean that they always did only the most upright things? No, they'd be fighting with their hands tied behind their backs. And that's the point I'm making right now. The Democrats are calling for escalation. They've got very little to go on. Their party is in disarray. I hope there is no escalation. I hope things calm down. I hope people stop fighting. Democrats are rallying around Kamala Harris. Ha! So it kind of feels like maybe this is the back end of the conflict. We're not going to see the grand civil war as many have predicted or feared. I will try and be as fair as I can be to myself and say, I probably have issued many statements where I said I feel that a civil war is coming and is inevitable. There's no off-ramp. But I've also said the probability of such may not be 50%. So let me try and unify my perspective in a way that's understandable. First, I will say this. Like most humans, I am subject to the whims of what our attention is on. Meaning some days it feels worse than others. That's true for everything. Sometimes that's data and sometimes that's emotion. If I see a story where it's like Democrats say they want to take down Elon Musk, while in the streets they're firebombing things, I'm like, this sounds scary. They're escalating to an extreme degree. When I personally experience the vitriol, it's scary. But other times people say to you this. Well, another thing that Constantine told me, I look out the window, I don't see any fighting. And when you think about it, you're like, maybe it's all exaggerated. Maybe. Well, I got unfortunate news for you guys. In 1861, in September, do you think people in Atlanta walked out of their houses and saw fighting? They did not. The war was far away. The front lines were Gettysburg, West Virginia, and these were the course of over several years. The reality is that people adapt to their moments and don't even consider how extreme things have gotten because it's always gradually, then suddenly. And that's where we're at today. If you went back 5 years and told people that the far left would be firebombing Tesla facilities, shooting them up, people would be like, what? Electric cars and guns? I don't believe you. Go back 10 years and tell people what this would lead to, and people are going to tell you they don't believe you. Go back 8 years and tell people that Trump would take a bullet to the right side of his head, narrowly escaping death, and people wouldn't believe you. Now, I know a lot of Trump supporters would, but what I'm hoping for is this. The Democratic Party is routed. They're floundering with no leadership. AOC is considered the representative who has the strongest connection to the Democratic Party. However, when asked who is the front runner, who are they going for, Kamala Harris wins the plurality, around 30 some odd percent. She's one of the worst candidates we've ever seen. Democrats got nothing. Based on what we're seeing with mass deportations and the actions of Donald Trump, I think it looks like we won. But if you sit on your hands and rest on your laurels, you will lose. I'm just saying the pace at which Trump is storming the gates feels like we won. USAID is routed. The judges are floundering. They're desperately trying to stop Trump. We know they're progressive, and Trump can just say, quote, I have heard the ruling from the court. Now have them enforce it. And where does that bring us? Many people will claim that Donald Trump is a dictator. I would claim that Joe Biden was, or Barack Obama was. It's a moot point. The question is whose moral worldview will actually survive this? And that is the point about Abraham Lincoln. Nobody will want to tell you on the Democrat or Republican side, no average person would ever want to say he was a dictator, despite the things that he did violating the Constitution, even threatening to arrest a Supreme Court justice. That's war, baby. As the judges seek to tell Donald Trump he can't exercise his own constitutional authority, Trump's response should not be, the judges ruled, so we can't do it. That's standard presidency. A wartime president says, we have heard the ruling, now let's see you enforce it. Trump has a mandate to save this country, and if he doesn't, we lose it. There's a lot that I can say that I try to refrain from saying, but I will mention this. I truly believe that should Democrats have won, you would see a lot of prominent podcasts taken off the air instantly overnight. Many prominent individuals would find themselves in prison on false charges that were made up because the zealous cult of the left doesn't care if it's true, as evidenced by everything we're seeing with Tesla. Ideology doesn't matter, only the power of the cult does. Tesla's the world's leading electric vehicle manufacturer. Shouldn't this be in alignment with their climate change goals? Climate change was never their goal. Communism was. So if you're driving a Tesla, they'll firebomb it, shoot it, and tell you to sell it. They're cheering for people who are buying gas vehicles. How does any of that make sense? When you realize they're a cult, then it kind of makes sense. From Mediaite. House Democrats tearfully complained about angry constituents demanding they stop Trump. They hate us. Indeed. What do Democrat voters want? They say Democratic members of Congress back home in the districts for the last week have been encountering a level of anger and hostility that some see as reminiscent of the 2010 Tea Party wave. The dynamic could spill over into the 2026 primaries, lawmakers tell Axios. With the infuriated grassroots attempting to throw out House and Senate Democrats they see as unprepared to take on Trump. Escalation. The Democrats are fairly weak, but still nuts. The J6 committee was insane. Allegations of witness tampering, false evidence, false contempt of Congress charges. Why isn't Merrick Garland in prison right now? And that's one thing I fear. They held Bannon and Robert Navarro in contempt of Congress. Why not Merrick Garland? Why is Merrick Garland allowed to get a pass? Did I give the wrong name? Peter Navarro? It was Peter Navarro. Why did I say Robert? It's Peter Navarro. Robert's the soccer player. I must have been watching sports earlier. Merrick Garland was held in contempt of Congress. Nothing happened. If the Democrats are able to wage administrative conflict, using the system to destroy people's lives, you have yourselves a communist revolution. If Donald Trump resists it and rejects it, you have yourself a civil war. Ray Dalio said it. We're in a cold civil war. You can believe whatever you want to believe. I kind of feel that if the right and Donald Trump does not say to these Democrats, you will face accountability, you will go to jail, if he does not actually seek to indict, the right will be crushed, the left will win. If Donald Trump does seek to pursue these indictments, do you believe the left will just accept it? In the 2020 election cycle, a war game was held. The Boston Globe reported on this. People like John Podesta were involved, where they said in their scenario, if Donald Trump were to win in 2020, they would demand the West Coast secede from the Union, or try to. We're not seeing anything like that just yet, but in all actuality, in all reality, it's only been 2 months. What happens if Donald Trump, as he just revoked the security clearances of Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden? Many are saying the rumor is he's going to have them indicted. What if he does? What do you think blue states will do? Bill Maher, I've got a segment coming up for you today. Bill Maher says the Democrats are done. It's game over. They're expected to lose, 10 electoral college seats, congressional seats? And that's not even accounting for mass deportations. Could be worse than that. Democrats may never win again. One, because they're nuts, but more importantly, because they will lose congressional seats, electoral college votes, and they don't have a leader to begin with. Do you believe that these powerful elites who have been funneling money through the Democrats or getting kickbacks from USAID and other associated NGOs, do you think they just roll over? Now, possible scenarios? Well, what we're seeing today is insurgency. This is 4th and 5th generational warfare. Psychological operations meant to torment and destroy companies and strip resources, as well as the use of violence sporadically across the country. This is the actual academic definition. I am not saying we're at war. Well, look, the definitions say this is the use of warfare. It could be this. Trump could round these people up. They get arrested. It's over. It could be that the prominent elites just flee the country, as they kind of have been for the first time. They keep talking, if Trump wins, I'm leaving, and they didn't, and now they did. Many of them are leaving to other countries, some to Ireland, some to France. Powerful billionaires, there's some that left the country right around the time of the election, and they've not been back since and probably never will. I got questions about that Epstein list, should it ever come out. Kamala Harris is the best they got? Well, good luck, my friends. They do have these judges. Judge Boasberg rejects Trump admin's bid to remove block on deporting gang members. Boasberg said that despite the president's determination otherwise, Tren de Aragua is not a foreign nation or government, and its actions, however heinous, do not amount to an invasion or a predatory incursion. None of it matters. I'm going to tell you again. Listen, Donald Trump's the president. He has executive authority. He declares an invasion. He can. Tren de Aragua are criminal gangs. They've taken over territory in the United States, apartment buildings and otherwise. Trump says they're going to go. In this, there's been accusations that people who are not part of TDA have been swept up in this. Welcome to conflict, my friends. This is the point. 10 to 20 million non-citizens flood this country. Joe Biden let them in. That was war against the American people. There's no way to cut it. The liberals are going to say, no, we welcome everybody. Have you seen the economy? Since Trump got in, let me show you this viral post. I got to pull this one up. I didn't have it prepped, but this matters so much to the conversation about what Trump is doing and how it's going to change this country and how the liberals react to it. They are angry. They're angry, my friends, that prices are coming down. Take a look at this. Reddit is furious. Deep effing value. A post on Reddit says, Costco is quietly slashing prices. This feels wrong. They say, I go to Costco every week. It's probably the only thing I do consistently. I've been doing it for years. I know how the prices move lately. Everything's discounted. I'm not talking promo tags or little manufacturer markdowns. I mean, whole shelves of items drop 20 to 40% across categories, not seasonal either. This isn't normal. Prices are supposed to be going up with tariffs, inflation, shipping costs, whatever. Instead, they're dumping inventory aggressively. Either demand is collapsing or something upstream is forcing their hand. It just doesn't make sense. It feels off. Maybe I'm overreacting, but I've never seen price drops like this since I started going. If this is what it looks like at Costco, the most stable, boring, buy-in-bulk fortress of consumerism, then I really don't want to know what's coming next. Maybe it's nothing, but probably not. So Trump is actually getting prices down, and you're mad about it? Yeah. Trump promised to do so. The actions Donald Trump is taking, the deportations and everything else, are going to make this country better. There's going to be pain. There's going to be questions, but it will improve the economy for the American people. We are presented with a major conflict. The left is going to argue that this is a conspiracy because there's no winning. Hey, I know how to piss off everybody watching. When the JFK files got released, there was no mention of Israel. And a bunch of people on X started saying, that's strange. How come Israel wasn't mentioned? Seems odd, doesn't it? Because to people who are looking for something, they will always find what they're looking for. To a hammer, everything looks like a nail. I'm not going to tell you anything about Israel or JFK. I'm just pointing out that there were people who actually thought it was proof of a conspiracy that they didn't mention Israel. So if there was a mention of Israel, they say it's proof. If there wasn't, they say it's proof. I'm not saying literally everybody. In this regard, the liberals are saying prices are coming down. That's impossible. We were told that couldn't happen. Just one anecdote. Ag prices have gone down. It would seem that alleviating the strain on the labor force, alleviating the strain on urban populations where they got to dump public resources into housing non-citizens, the mass deportations seem to be strengthening the economy, dropping the demand. Is that what they said? What did they say? Either demand is collapsing. Could it be the mass deportations and self-deportations? So the prices are starting to come down? Yes, maybe that's why. Democrats won't accept this. They are the party of we don't care, we just don't like Trump. So the threat of this new Democrat Tea Party movement means something substantive. It means that the Democrats that are going to come in next will exist for one reason. Trump must be stopped. They will offer you nothing else. If they win, they have no plan. We saw that with Joe Biden. If they win, they will only give us administrative conflict. Their whole goal is don't let Trump win. Trump's goal is restore America, drop prices, bring manufacturing back, secure our borders, boost our military. He is fighting a machine that is hell-bent on destroying this country. So I think we're getting conflict one way or another. And that is not an opinion. It's literally happening right now. And on the 29th, the massive protests from the Tesla people are going to light up. And we may see something worse in the summer of love. But why would it stop in just the first year of Trump? If Trump gets a handle on things, he may break this. Media messaging is important. Taking out the corrupt politicians, the bureaucrats, and those who waged war and sedition against this country is important. Arresting the terrorists and their funding networks is important. Right now, it looks like we're starting to get a combination of these in the first degree, in the first step. The shuttering of USAID is likely, it appears, cutting funding that's used to prop up these protest organizations, which rally violence. They bring people together. They don't pay the protesters themselves, but they create the messaging. The corporate press is collapsing. RFK Jr. says no more pharmaceutical advertisements. You know what that means? It means a lot of these big networks on cable TV ain't going to have no more money. They ain't going to be able to hire these personalities to put out this message. Brought to you by Pfizer. Brought to you by Pfizer. Well, not anymore. All of this will take resources away from that faction. This may be the back end of the conflict, and I hope that's the case. I hope the violence stops. I hope the administrative warfare stops. I hope things chill out. And then we can go back to playing football, disc golf, skateboarding, watching sports. Maybe we can watch a basketball game without seeing people kneel or whatever. Or a football game where we just want to watch the football get thrown. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for a de-escalation in foreign war. I hope Trump can bring it, but I'm not entirely sure. One thing I can't say, my friends, so we're going to grab your Rumble rants right now and take some of your questions. So get those in while you can. Smash the like button. Share this show. Shout out to the Rumble lineup. We are live on the home page. Shout out to Steven Crowder, of course, and the Mug Club. And up next, in about 10 minutes, you will be sent to Jeremy Hambley of The Quartering, who's going to have a great show for you guys. Snow White's bombed, so I hope you guys are all loving and laughing about that. Let me just give you a final thought as I say, smash that like button. Come on, let's get more likes. And subscribe to this channel and share. Man, part of me really doesn't want to have these conversations at all. But I feel like most people are actually just scared to admit it. I've not made any of these stories up. I literally just grabbed the stories that we have. I have not, in my view, I think I downplay some of these stories. Some are saying a man rammed the protesters. It's terror. And I said, no, the guy may have driven through them at a slow speed. I don't want to come out here and scream the end is nigh. I was told by a journalism professor 12 years ago, I have the unfortunate privilege of being ahead of the market. The technology and the techniques that I was using in reporting were ahead of everybody else. And then, of course, you can take a look at where we're at now. The system that I've built and the company that I built, I actually told Vice to build back in the day, and they didn't want to do it. Imagine how much money they'd be making. They're bankrupt now. I fear that I'm not being unreasonable, my friends. I'm actually just pointing out what the news shows, and the news shows that there is an escalating conflict. The summer of love was bad. Some people say it's worse than anything we experience now, but my friends, they weren't targeting conservatives. It was random violence in their own towns. So there's metrics to it, but maybe this means it's the death rattle. They're desperate, and I hope that's the case. I'd much prefer to talk about Snow White and why a movie is bad than why I fear people might shoot me in my vehicle driving down the street, but they've done it on more than one occasion. Though it's only about 15 or 16 locations so far. Hopefully it doesn't spread. Shout out to Steven Crowder's crew. I see we've got the final Mug Club raid. People are saying Russell Brand is next, not Jeremy. Is that the case? Because I was told that Russell was still going to be on vacation. Nope, it's Ruffle. Oh, okay. Shout out, Jeremy. I'm rating Russell Brand. Wait. Nope. Guys, I believe it is Jeremy. We got texts going, but I'll just double check, make sure. We're going to grab your Rumble rants. So again, make sure to follow us. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. I believe Jeremy is actually already live, and we will be rating Jeremy live at 1 today. So shout out to Jeremy and the crew. We'll make sure we smash that like button for Jeremy over there. But we'll grab some more super chats. I call them super chats. Rumble rants, my friends. And then we'll be rounding this out in about 7 minutes. 7 or so minutes. Let's go. Rage LB says, I'm trying to bring MAGA to gaming. Rage LB on Rumble and YouTube. Rage LB 3 on YouTube. Right on. Kulava says, hey, Tim, is that gray hair on your beard or fuzz? Ish was bugging me. This is why it's gray hair. So I don't care. You've already noticed. People are like, Tim, get hair plugs. You're rich. Tim, get your teeth fixed. You're rich. I don't care. But they're like, but you wear a beanie. I'm like, I don't know. It's just the aesthetic. So it's what I prefer to do. It's like, I'm the beanie guy, right? But I ain't got no hair. I got crooked teeth. I'm genetically missing a tooth. And I have gray fuzz in my beard. Gray hair, not fuzz. The problem is when you are starting to go gray, it looks like you've got schmutz on your face. And that's why people buy the Just for Men stuff. It's not because you're like, I'm getting old. It's because people keep going. Get that thing. Like, people are like, Tim, you got something on your beard. I'm like, no, it's turning white. It's normal. But people think it's fuzz. So, yeah, I don't know how many of you actually noticed. I don't really care what I look like. I try to be healthy. But I was saying this a while ago when I weighed 200 pounds. And I skated, but I guess I was just eating poorly and didn't care. And I started trimming up, not because of how I looked, but because I was like, I have a responsibility to be the best version I can. How could I advocate to other people to be healthy if I'm not conscious of this? And so I lost a bunch of weight. Now I'm particularly fit. So, you just got to be who you are. But I think that when it comes to the weight stuff, it's not about looking better. I'm not going to get hair transplants or anything. But I am going to be fit because you should be. Arsonist YouTube, or YT, is that YouTube? I don't know. We together put this man in White House. I'm sick of these judges and these excuses. Do the job we voted for. Arrest anyone who gets in the way for aiding terrorists If he doesn't, he failed. I agree. Copium Poppy says, check out the teaser vid we made for our upcoming first episode coming out in April 1st. Available on Rumble and YouTube, along with a couple of music videos. Copium Poppies, shout out. Just because I'm free with a counterpoint, Tim, it is kinetic warfare. What do you call shooting, firebombing Tesla? The attacking, swatting, and beating of people who support MAGA. This is and has been kinetic. Kinetic warfare, so here's the distinction. There's civil strife and there's civil war. In civil strife, people are killed, beaten, and die, but it's not called war. This is the confusion that a lot of people have. When I say wartime and when I say fourth generational warfare, they think they can only imagine a scenario where soldiers are marching down the streets with guns. No. The reason why this is not kinetic war, it is not a civil war. It's not kinetic conflict. In the sense I'm referring to specifically is Trump has not amassed factions to go and fight other state factions where let me put it this way. The Democrats and the Republicans aren't shooting at each other. Some extremists are fighting in the streets. Some far leftists are attacking people. It's civil strife. But we are not at war in that sense. So we have administrative war to the highest degree possible, but not kinetic war. So you are correct. Kinetic warfare has occurred, but we are not in a kinetic war itself. I hope that's clear. I understand. That's why they think these things can be confusing. And let's just say this. For every like we get in this video is 1 year Anthony Fauci will spend in prison. That's the joke. I figured out how to get people to smash the like button. Just tell them that. Right now, the current amount of years in prison is 3,620. It's a long time. KWA says J6 was a precedent to handle domestic terrorism. Arrest the Tesla bombers. It happens during a protest. Arrest them all for participation. Solitary confinement 2 to 3 years before trial. You want the J6 treatment? Why not? Everybody, so this is what I mean by commensurate force. Everyone who was at J6, even if you walked there an hour later after the riots, stood on the grounds, confused, they still put you in prison. Do we want to see commensurate force? That would mean anybody at a Tesla protest where 1 or 2 people engage in an act of terror, all of them get rounded up with a nationwide manhunt. And I know people are going to call for it. That's why I keep saying it doesn't matter. Because they have already sought to imprison you. There were thousands of people that day at the Capitol who were there after the riot. I've heard stories. People walked up, looked around. The doors were open. There was no fighting. There were 2 sides of the building. People were scattered about. Most people had left. One woman told me her and her husband showed up a couple hours later. They didn't know what was going on. They didn't read the news. They walked up to the Capitol. The doors were open. They walked inside and looked around, and they just saw people were trailing out and leaving. There were no cops, and they left. 18-month sentence. They've since been pardoned, and they should have been. I'm glad it happened. So now you tell me, with these people at the Tesla protests, do we cut them that slack? Yeah. I'm willing to bet most people will say no. My friends, it appears that we still have a couple of minutes until Jeremy Hambley's show is set to launch, but we're going to prepare that raid anyway. So smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know, and I will be activating the raid now to launch you guys over to see the quartering as he discusses his show today. Absurd Epstein Files updates, Trump versus the Supreme Court, and they've got a massive giveaway as well as Sodagate. Yes, I have a video about Sodagate that went up on Rumble and YouTube. And, it's pretty nuts. Conservative personalities taking money to promote people using welfare benefits to buy soda. They were paid to do it. How strange is that? I'm going to drop the link to Jeremy's show there in the chat for all of you to watch. And then we're going to pin that message for everybody so that you guys do not miss a beat. And then we're going to wrap things up. My friends, thanks for tuning in to this Rumble Live exclusive at rumble.com, a massive show. We had about 75,000 viewers, making one of the top live streams in the world, probably the #1 live stream in this time slot for the country. I keep saying world, but I think it's country. So we're here to change the game. Smash that like button, share this stream, share this show. We will be putting the shows up on YouTube after. We'll end up, putting them up at 1. So I really do appreciate it. Follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Thank you all so much for hanging out. Go check out the quartering, and we will see you all in the next bit. We got more segments coming up. We'll see y'all there.